There are at least two kinds of films that meaningfully shape a culture. Some are so powerful they change people's behavior. In 1973, a movie terrified a generation so deeply that Catholics ran back to church in droves. In 1986, a movie doused audiences in so much jet fuel and testosterone that Navy enlistment surged 500%. Then there are films that don't change what people do, but give them new vocabulary to describe the world. Of course, the red pill went from sci-fi plot device to political metaphor for peeling back ideological deception, and now there's an entire pharmacology of internet enlightenment: pink pills, white pills, black pills, etc. Idiocracy is a film of this second type. Every election cycle, every time the world gets a little more embarrassing, Mike Judge's 2006 satire gets trotted out and touted as a prophecy turned documentary. OMG, we literally live in idiocracy. The story of the average Joe who wakes up in a trash-infested future dominated by imbeciles endures less as a movie and more as cultural shorthand for a public problem that everyone seems to agree with. People are getting seriously, alarmingly dumb. And I get it. Are politics becoming more of a three-ring circus every day? Absolutely. Does media continue to reach new depths of shamelessness? Good God, yes. Is it because the average citizen is becoming increasingly moronic? Well, not quite. As a movie, I like Idiocracy a lot. It's funny, Terry Crews and Dax Shepard are amazing. But as a tool people use to diagnose what's wrong with society, I find it kind of smug and annoying. Because what if the film's cultural stickiness says less about the true causes of social decay and more about the story we prefer to tell ourselves about social decay? What if we continue to invoke Idiocracy, not because it's bleak, but because it's actually flattering? Well, to find out, we're gonna have to pay a visit to Frito and the gang, stare into the abyss that is the most soul-crushing business in the world, and talk about the sociology of drunk driving. Grab yourself a Brondo and hit that subscribe button because we're about to dive in. But first, a quick recap. Aggressively average Army librarian Joe Bowers is chosen for a top-secret hibernation experiment along with sex worker Rita. When scandal involving the top brass erupts, the experiment is forgotten, and they're left frozen for 500 years. After a trash avalanche opens his pod, Joe wakes up to find himself in a barely functioning society full of complete imbeciles, the product of generations of genetic decay. An aptitude test soon reveals that Joe is the smartest man alive, by far. This earns him an audience with President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho, who tasks Joe with solving the nation's greatest crisis: the crops are dying.
Taxes is feeling unwelcome. Now Taxes is an open door to new TurboTax stores. Meet our experts. They do your taxes, so you can walk out with confidence. Now this is Taxes.
From hard hats to steel-toed boots, Grainger's got your safety needs covered, literally. Shop Grainger's vast...
Joe discovers the fields are being irrigated with a sports drink called Brondo, and when he replaces it with water, the economy crashes. So Joe is sentenced to, quote, rehabilitation, but moments before his execution, the people are shown that water works. The crops have begun to grow. Joe is pardoned, eventually succeeds Camacho as the new president, and settles down with Rita. The end. If one were to say Idiocracy makes a moral point, it's basically this.
Tell people to read books. Tell people to stay in school. Tell people to just use their brains or something.
And why did people stop doing these things? Well, it's all there in the opening scene. The Idiocracy origin story is explained via two couples, Trevor and Carol, and Cleavon and Trish, and Brittany and Mackenzie and Brandy and Kayla. Cleavon, in the spirit of Frank Booth, everything that moves.
Let's anything that moves!
Now that's a movie. Anyway, so Cleavon and his ilk produce child after child without restraint or deliberation. While on the other hand, Trevor and Carol consider things like financial stability and emotional readiness.
Having kids is such an important decision.
We're just waiting for the right time. It's not something you want to rush into.
So they plan and delay until it's too late, resulting in a world of too many Cleavon Juniors and not enough Trevor Juniors. This opening has drawn criticism over the years for flirting with eugenics, and while on a literal level it does, the scenario is so ludicrous, the tone so unserious, that I doubt viewers walk away believing Idiocracy has solved the problem of social decay through eugenics. What I think they do take seriously, though, is the underlying moral logic, that the world is divided between those who lack the discipline to deny immediate pleasures and those who are guided by reflection and reason. And this, I'd argue, is key to Idiocracy's enduring appeal as cultural shorthand for our increasingly embarrassing reality. It offers us clear differentiation, a clean moral fable. There are people who are part of the problem, and there are people who are not. And for one of my favorite sociologists, Joseph Gusfield, this is exactly how we like our public problems packaged. We are deeply attached to symbolic dramas, stories that take incredibly complex issues and flatten them into morality tales with well-defined villains and victims. And to understand how Idiocracy does just this, we're gonna have to talk a little bit about the construction of another well-known cultural problem, drinking and driving.
Alcohol can demolish your ability to make good judgments and decisions with the force of a pile driver.
In 1981, Gusfield published The Culture of Public Problems, in which he claimed that even the most rigorous data-backed research into drunk driving accidents depends on storytelling. Facts are arranged and framed using literary techniques, turning what is a messy and complex reality into an emotionally satisfying moral drama between good and evil. When we hear about an auto accident involving alcohol, we immediately tell ourselves the same story. Someone drank, made the immoral choice to get behind the wheel, and innocence paid the price. But when Gusfield digs into the data, that clean story starts to unravel. There are a lot more variables at play. For instance, depressed drinkers, poor drinkers, rural drinkers, drinkers driving unsafe cars are all more likely to crash than other drinkers. Moreover, why is drunk driving framed as an individual moral failing when it's just as logical to consider it a problem of transportation? Certainly, if there were more public transit options, if our environment wasn't so spread out, or if our business culture wasn't so tightly bound to alcohol, the accident rate would plummet. Now, his point was not that drinking or individual responsibility is irrelevant. They definitely aren't. It's that public problems require moralistic simplifications to become legible and actionable. Even in the sciences, data gets organized into narratives that make the world feel orderly, essentially stories that allow us to believe that bad results flow neatly from bad choices. And I'd argue Idiocracy does the same thing for the public problem of social decline. It takes a complex reality and translates it into a satisfying moral drama. And like any good moral drama, Idiocracy relies on a few key elements. One is what Gusfield, drawing on theorist Kenneth Burke, calls a sacrificial principle. The idea is that it's easiest to imagine an orderly society when blame can be concentrated. It's easy to understand what society is when you symbolically denigrate what it is not. In the drama of the drinking driver, there's the social drinker, the Boy Scout who has only one beer. Then there's the problem drinker, the compulsive, irresponsible degenerate. By isolating him as the cause of harm, the rest of society gets to imagine itself as fundamentally orderly and rational. Idiocracy is built on the same sacrificial principle. Cleavon and his ilk ignore the boundaries of prudent living. They give in to impulse and pursue pleasure without restraint. This failure of self-regulation becomes the original sin that animates all the idiocy that follows. When Joe wakes up in the future, the world is saturated with Cleavon's brand of, quote, redneck culture. Cop cars are plastered with lowrider-style Chicano typography. Culinary culture has been reduced to fast food like Carl's Jr. and Fudd. Never mind. The White House lawn is littered with car parts and a hillbilly hot tub. People jet ski in the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. Government officials dressed like walking NASCAR sponsorships. The justice system plays out like a monster truck rally. And President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho used to be a wrestler. It's tempting to read this as just Mike Judge dunking on Bush-era rural conservatives, and he largely is, but people across the political spectrum use Idiocracy to express cultural despair, so I think it's less a demographic and more a moral type. People who lack self-regulation and chase cheap dopamine wherever it leads. I mean, there are slot machines in hospitals, and sex is everywhere. You can get a happy ending at Starbucks.
Man, I could really go for a Starbucks, you know?
Yeah, well, I really don't think we have time for a hand job, Joe.
Baiting is treated as a civic pastime.
Go away, Baton!
Oh, and President Camacho is also a former star. Like the myth of the killer drunk, Idiocracy makes decline intelligible by offering a villain who's easy to blame.
I've seen plenty of power banks over my 15 years of reviewing tech, but this Ridge one quickly became a favorite. So this, a 10,000 milliamp hour battery that's already this small, is pretty clutch, but it's also pretty loaded.
There's a bunch of whores in the hallway.
The resilient moron who recognizes no moral obligation beyond dopamine maxing. Another crucial ingredient to a good moral drama is perspective, something that allows large numbers of people to believe they're outside the problem. Thus, the genius of the film's very average protagonist, Joe Bowers.
Mr. Bowers was chosen primarily for how remarkably average he is.
Imagine if the main character was a brilliant physicist or intellectual.
You think Einstein walked around thinking everyone was a bunch of dumb shits?
The movie wouldn't work nearly as well because Joe's averageness situates him in an ideal relationship to the audience. We'd feel a lot less comfortable joining Joe in judging the Idiocrats if he were some kind of genius, but as a normal dude, well, that's easy to relate to. Gusfield claims one of the reasons the myth of the killer drunk is so persuasive is because of the perspective from which it's told. Research papers and public campaigns are written from the standpoint of an outsider looking at drinking drivers as a group whom the author and the reader are not part of. The audience is positioned as equivalent to the author, but superior to the drinkers the paper is studying. It's the same with Idiocracy. Through Joe's perspective, we can position any average quality we have, I don't know, basic literacy, working grasp of the English language.
I'll bait your ass on my fist. Face, ass, shut up.
As distinct from the dopamine maxing Idiocrats. Equal to Joe, superior to the dumbs. A good moral drama also gives us a concrete sense of what everyone else believes, or what Gusfield, borrowing from social psychology, calls pluralistic ignorance. Pluralistic ignorance is when individuals privately hold one set of beliefs, but assume the broader public believes something much cruder and more basic, even though that consensus doesn't actually exist. Idiocracy does exactly this. Take Ow My Balls. The nationally celebrated program about nutshots is clearly a jab at the explosion of trash reality shows in the 2000s and the dullards who watch it.
Flavor Flay!
But let's be honest, we've all watched one of these shows. I'll admit, I've spent a non-trivial amount of time watching 90 Day Fiancé with my wife, and there have even been times when I was into it. Like, really into it. But when we picture the general audience for these shows, we don't grant them the nuance we would afford our own watching habits. We don't assume they're film critic philosophy enthusiasts indulging in something a little bit lower frequency after a long day. No, we imagine them like Frito sitting on his recliner toilet. Uncritical, slack-jawed, just lapping it up. The same logic operates with the film's take on society-wide corporate takeover. In the future, it seems, everyone has internalized corporate messaging and relies on these businesses entirely. People are named after brands, Hormel, Dr. Lexus, Frito, Mountain Dew, etc. Carl's Jr. takes custody of underprivileged kids.
Your children will be placed in the custody of Carl's Jr.
AOL, Time Warner, and Taco Bell have merged with the US government. You can apparently go to law school at Costco.
Yeah, I know this place is pretty good. I went to law school here.
In Costco?
And the entire economy relies on a sports drink that has convinced the population via slogan alone that it can manage the agricultural sector.
But Brondo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
What are electrolytes? Do you even know?
Whenever we watch commercials or sit through some god-awful corporate video, we maintain a sense of personal skepticism. We individually don't buy this nonsense, but assume there must be a vast population of others who do. Why else would these things exist? We imagine ourselves as nuanced and critical, others as impressionable and easily manipulated. Idiocracy is a great moral drama because it gives form to this imaginary consensus, this make-believe mass of people who are nothing but passive receivers of trash culture. That cynical assumption gives a sense of order to the world. We now know why everything sucks. But as Gusfield's study revealed, the truth is rarely that convenient. Yes, a culture increasingly organized around immediate gratification is a problem, but is it because dumb people collectively lost their moral fiber, or did smart people build technologies that aggressively reward content and information aimed at the least reflective part of our brains? Did a population of half-wits start demanding only porn, gambling, and rage bait? Or did a cynical engineer figure out that these things optimize ad clicks? Yes, the pornification of everything is a problem, but is it because dumb people abandon more reflective forms of entertainment? Or did smart tech people radically reshape the dating market, leaving large swaths of the population romantically non-viable, allowing another smart person to monetize that social dysfunction and build the most revenue-efficient company in the modern economy? Yes, the reduction of politics to spectacle and entertainment is a problem, but is it because that's the only thing dumb people will vote for? Or did smart people, consultants, strategists, decide that vibes and joy matter more than concrete policy decisions? Not so different from French fries and burrito coverings.
Are we running out of French fries and burrito coverings?
So, are people becoming stupider, or have smart people created a feedback loop in which the mental faculties most frequently rewarded become the ones most frequently exercised? And, you know, despite how the film is most often used to sneer at less noble others, there's actually evidence that the film makes a similar point. Because what were the smart people doing while everything was falling apart?
Sadly, the greatest minds and resources were focused on conquering hair loss and prolonging erections.
Yup, they were monetizing our most primitive drives. And you could even argue that Trevor and Carol might have had children if they weren't living in a society where childcare is an overwhelming economic anxiety, more a problem of incentive than a moral failing.
What you want to do is save hundreds when Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance.
That's great, but can you ask your friend to stop digging into the green?
I can ask, but he's not going to. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
The point isn't that we should banish idiocracy from our vocabulary. If that were my argument, I'd be guilty of the same thing I'm accusing idiocracy of, elevating my viewers safely above the problem. But in the spirit of honesty, maybe there's no denying that part of the appeal of a video like this is that you, my very valued viewers, are being positioned above the people who get their rocks off by dismissing entire populations as imbeciles. But I guess that's kinda Gus Field's point. Anytime something speaks to us, whether it's a video essay or even a scientific study, there's likely some emotional reason for it. As he said, fiction is the shape of fact. The dumber parts of our brains are always going to try to translate complexity into emotionally legible stories. There's no avoiding that, and a movie like Idiocracy is one technology among many that compresses reality into something graspable and motivating. And motivation matters. Societies don't act because they've perfectly understood the facts, they act because a fiction has made those facts feel urgent. So, as tempting as it is, it would be disingenuous to end this video with a call to work past the fictions and stick to the facts. Hell, I mean, if anything, the defining problem of our species might just be figuring out which fictions are the right ones to represent the facts. So instead of closing with a call to be more informed, I'll say this: watch more movies, read more novels, binge more series, and analyze them. Figure out why they push your buttons, because those are likely the same buttons that shape how you interpret and act on the real world. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because the next video is going to be on Interstellar, and then after that, I'm going to make good on the video about The Exorcist I've been talking about. It's part of a collab, so it's going to take a little bit longer. Don't forget to follow me on Letterboxd. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a link to my Ko-fi page below, and I hope you guys are having a great start of the year. Peace.
Get some! Get some!
Request approved. Reinforcements have been launched.
Helldiver reporting to the front!
Sending down sentry.
Dropping a pin. Get some! Get some! Bug hive spotted! Prepare to exterminate!
Coming in hot. Eagle 1 returning to destroyer for resupply. Reinforcement budget running low. Request approved. Reinforcements on the way.
The siege upon managed democracy continues. Let us rally to her defense. This operation would strike a mighty blow against the enemy.
Mission coordinates locked. Hellpods prime. Engaging orbital thrusters. Orbit synchronized. Launch initiated.
The galactic war waits for no one. Are you ready, Helldiver? This operation is no longer vital.
Mission coordinates locked. Hellpods primed. Engaging orbital thrusters. Orbit synchronized. Launch initiated. Units locked. Hellpods primed. Hellpod launch initiated.
to liberate!
Deploying support weapon.
Eagles back from the nest.
I'm out!
Helldiver KIA deploying replacement. Request approved. Reinforcements have been launched.
Joining the fray!
Eagle 1 rearming. Be back shortly.
My body for Super Earth!
Objective critical stratagem available. Deploying equipment package. Hellbomb request approved. Deploying now.
Last reload! Have a taste of democracy! Mag's empty! Freedom forever!
Stratagem available. Objective critical stratagem no longer available.
Not today!
Launching smoke stream.
Eagles back in the fight.
Hellbomb request approved. Deploying now. Helldiver lost. Sending replacement. Request approved. Deploying reinforcements.
Helldiver, reporting to the front! My arm! Freedom now!
The galactic war waits for no one. Are you ready, Helldiver? Look at this disgusting infestation. Deploy to the planet.
Mission coordinates locked. Hellpods prime. Engaging orbital thrusters. Orbit synchronized. Launch initiated.
Okay, here we go. You guys ready to listen to this?
This is...
Today the light of liberty will grace the skies of this world once more.
Okay, here we go. You guys ready to listen to this?
This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy.
Man, what a fucking retard. Oh my God.
So it sounds to me, Nick, that Governor Tim Walz is saying that you and others that are out there trying to expose this, you know, you're doing it because you're white supremacists. What is your response to him?
Yeah, Tim wants votes. There are entire apartment complexes where white people have been pushed out of these apartment complexes because Somalians have taken over and they're inside of these towns.
There's like white, wait, what?
Entire apartment complexes where white people have been pushed out of these apartment complexes because Somalians have taken over.
Of course.
And they're inside of these towns like Minneapolis,
Yeah, sure.
where they can go get votes from these people. And if you have 100,000 people that will vote for you because you're going to enable and let this stuff happen, and because you're going to call a white person racist for calling out facts, this is what's going to happen to a state like Minnesota. Minnesotans, they say Minnesota nice, but they are very upset, and I totally understand why they're upset.
Yeah, I bet they
don't
are.
have a governor who's actually...
You think he can dodge this by throwing away buzzwords? Yeah, like it's white supremacy that people want scammers deported. Yeah, sure, man.
Working for them. He's actually working against them.
Nick, your video's been viewed 93 million times. What do you think will be the result
insane.
of this? Do you think that things will change because of bringing attention to this, or do you think it'll be much the same, swept under the rug and keep moving forward?
Yeah, there better be change. People are demanding it. The investigations have been launched just from that video alone. And so there better be change because, like I said, we work way too hard to be paying taxes. We work way too hard to be not knowing where our money's going. And at the end of the day, the people in the government, they work for us. We don't work for them. And so it's their responsibility to hold these people accountable.
You don't work for the government. You work for the Somalians.
Accountable. And so if there's not something that's happened, people are going to be very frustrated. And so if President Trump's watching this, it's time to really get down to nitty-gritty and to make a difference in this place of Minnesota that is
absolutely
pretty much like Somaliland right now.
Yep.
We're a state of immigrants that values that. We have more refugees
I can see that
per capita than any other state.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's not just morally a good thing.
It's not a morally good thing. Why is it a morally good thing to have a bunch of refugees? Who decided that? I don't agree with that. I think that's ridiculous.
It's our economic and cultural future. This beautiful diverse...
Thank God we can have our culture replaced by immigrants from Somalia that don't speak English. That's amazing. Thank God. And this is it. It's funny to say that, like, anytime that somebody talks about, oh, wow, there's like a demographic change or something like that, they say it's like a white supremacy theory. Meanwhile, here's Tim Walz explaining it happening. He's literally just he's saying it right out there.
We see out in Worthington when I'm there, you see 50 languages spoken in the school, and you see...
How is that a good thing? 50 languages was a punishment from God in the Old Testament for people building the Tower of Babel too high to get to heaven. You're literally looking at an Old Testament punishment from a vengeful God on a fallen world, and you're saying that it's a good thing. Is this fat, bald retard serious? Oh my God. 50 languages? That sounds like chaos. Can you imagine that?
Bag's empty.
Every storefront filled with different types of foods, different types of businesses.
I love how this is the prime reason why Americans are okay with immigration, because of food. I can see, Tim, that's the reason why you want the immigrants, is so they can make you more food. Absolutely. I believe you.
Are happening. Minnesota needs to continue to do that. The office of governor can set the tone on that. We're going to continue to need to diversify. We're going to have to put policies in place that make sure we're attracting teachers of color so that...
Why would you do... See, this kind of stuff, like, this is the kind of stuff that as a white person, you should never vote for this guy. This person is trying to systematically disenfranchise you and take you away from things that would be fair. He doesn't want a meritocracy. Why? Because the reason why... So here's the reason. I will explain the actual reason why. The real reason why it happens is because white people don't vote based off of this. And I think that we should start voting like this. I do. I think that we should. The moment that any of these people talk about adding in any sort of systematic advantage, any sort of beneficiary program, anything to benefit a person who is a random ass fucking immigrant, and they're saying, yeah, we need to bring these people in here, why should I vote for a candidate that wants to systematically disenfranchise me? Absolutely not. And any self-respecting white person should never vote for this. It is insane. If they want to, and the problem is that there are so many white people that are consumed by white guilt because of Hitler or because of slavery or because of Jim Crow, and all of these things were bad, but they have one thing in common. I didn't do any of them. So whenever I have to hear that, oh my God, this is some terrible fucking thing that happened, and so now I have to live my whole life, basically, a step behind where these other people get advantages, absolutely not. No way. And so really the reason why he does this is because white people don't take offense to it. And I think that we need to start taking offense to it. I absolutely think so. The idea that we can have somebody come on television and say that it's a good thing that I, as a white person, am disenfranchised systematically by a system, that way we can have more teachers that are a different skin color than me, that are coming over from another fucking country so they can replace me and my jobs. Absolutely fucking not. And I think that everybody should be making this decision. Why would I ever make that decision for even a second? They'll just claim white tears. Claim it all you want. I still don't think... you call it whatever you want to call it. You can call it being racist. You call it a Nazi. You call it whatever you want. I'm still not going to vote for it. It doesn't matter what word you put on it. Who gives a shit about the word? So yes, and this is the problem. It's that white people have... I think that really it's that... I don't think they really care enough. I think that's the main reason. They just kind of let this stuff happen to them.
Students of color have someone that they understand, look like, think like, see like in front of them.
Yeah, so here we go. So let's import a bunch of immigrants and a bunch of random third worlders. And now because we have all these third worlders in the country, now we have to also create incentive programs to make other third worlders teach the third worlders that we imported in. Here, I've got a great solution that's going to solve this whole problem. They all go back. That's my solution. They're all going back. I don't give a shit. I don't want to deal with this. Get rid of every single one of these people that are net negative taxpayers need to be sent back to their country. I don't care if they're citizens or not. It's crazy that people put up with this. And I don't think that people, here's what's crazy. I don't think that people realize the amount of rot that this creates. This makes traffic worse. It makes getting a job worse. It makes going to the emergency room worse. It makes doing any sort of, like, getting any sort of federal system, it makes it worse. These people massively jam up the system because they're filing fake shit. They're filing things wrong. They're not actually, they're not even supposed to be filing them in a lot of cases. I don't think you guys can understand all of the second and third order effects that bringing in this massive population that's very clearly